This is on graphing a linear equation. And what a linear equation is that it's an equation that forms a graph that makes a straight line. So we've been doing slope with rise over run. We've been doing y-intercept, which is where the graph crosses the y-axis. And so now we're going to kind of tie everything together from solving equations and graphing the lines. Now, most of the equations we've been solving have only had one variable. So with this having two variables, our x and y is the reason this equation creates a line because of the x and y axis. All right, so we have to remember the slope-intercept form. We did this a couple of videos ago, where m is our slope and b is the y-intercept. And remember, I circled the plus b because if there's a minus, then it's a negative y-intercept. Okay, so what we've got to do is find out what is the y-intercept and what is the slope. Every single equation, you're going to write y-intercept and slope. So then, what is the y-intercept? The y-intercept is the b over here all by itself, just our regular plain number. The y-intercept is a positive 1. What is our slope? Our slope is, what is 2/3 right there in front of the x. So our slope is 2/3. All right, just like our video from yesterday, if the y-intercept is 1, we're going to put a 1 on the y-axis. Put a 1 on the y-axis. Put a point on the 1 that's on the y-axis. All right, and then my slope is 2/3, which means rise 2, run 3. Now, do you remember? Do we start from the origin or do we start from the point that we drew on the y-intercept? The y-intercept is where we start. So we count our ratio, up 2 over 3. Up 2 over 3. And then we connect and draw our line. All right, number 2, y equals 1/2 x minus 4. So remember, every single problem we have to write y-intercept and slope. Every single equation has a y-intercept and a slope. So what is the y-intercept? It's -4 because it's subtract 4, so it's -4. What is our slope? Our slope is the coefficient in front of x, 1 over x. So we will rise 1, run 2. That's our slope, rise over run. So we will start the y-intercept at -4. 1, 2, 3, 4, -4, so I had to go down 4 on the y-axis because it's -4. Now my slope is rise 1, run 2. Do we start from the origin or from the y-intercept? From the y-intercept. So I've got to rise 1, and what I mean by that is rise 1, run 2. And then I will draw an ordered pair there. But I'm going to erase those two little loop-de-loops. All right, so then I'm going to connect my ordered pairs. And that is my line for that equation. All right, number 3. What is the y-intercept? Notice I haven't really changed much of anything. Every single equation, I write down what is the y-intercept, what is the slope. So my y-intercept is the number that's all by itself, the constant. It is a positive 3, so I'm just going to write a 3 for the y-intercept. All right, so slope. What is slope? Oh no, there's not a number in front of x. So we're going to put a 1 in front of x. Everybody remembers that. If there's not that coefficient in front, you can put a 1. So my slope is 1. But now remember from yesterday or the last video, we discussed that slope needs to be a fraction. Like it works best for it to be a fraction because we can do our rise and we can do our run. So how do I make that a fraction? I put whatever the number is over 1. If it was a 2, it'd be 2 over 1. If it was a -5, it'd be -5 over 1. Making that whole number a fraction, you put a 1 as a denominator. So we are going to rise and run. But where do I start? I start at 3 on the y-intercept. 1, 2, 3. Then my slope is rise 1, run 1. So I will rise 1, run 1. There you go. All right, so number 4, the last one, every single problem, y equals 4 minus 2x. Got to have y-intercept and the slope. So now there's a problem. It's not necessarily a problem, but it's just something different. Earlier, the x plus 3. The x minus 4, x plus b, x plus 1. And when I go here, the x is in the back. But guess what? It's still the same. The number that's the coefficient, which coefficient means the number attached to, the coefficient of x is still the slope. And then your constant, your plane number, is still the y-intercept. Like that doesn't change. All right, so now y-intercept is 4. Even though we would say it's in the wrong place, it's not necessarily in the wrong place, but you know, we think it's in the wrong place. So my y-intercept's 4, and my slope is now -2 because it's subtract 2. But what happens when we don't have a fraction? We love fractions for slope. If it's not a fraction, we're going to make it a fraction. All right, so normally we're going to rise up. But here we can't rise up because it's a negative. So we're going to rise down, and run to the right. Then everybody's like, well, we've ran to the right a bunch. Most of the time you will run to the right. Very rarely will you run to the left. If that denominator was negative, we would run to the left. The next video, you may see us running to the left, but most of the time we run to the right. All right, so still the same. Our y-intercept's 4. We start with the y-intercept, which is 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's where we're going to start. Then I use my y-intercept, and this is where I'm going to start. I'm going to go down 2 over 1. Down 2 over 1. Thank you.